This is the Behavioral View. I'm Shannon Hill, and joining me is Nissa Van Etten. We're your hosts for candid conversations about applied behavior analysis. No gimmicks, just real talk, practical tips, and maybe a few laughs. Come on and join us. Let's have some fun. Hey everyone, would you like to get at CEU for this episode? Listen closely for the announcement of 3 secret words delivered throughout the episode. Take note of those words, and we'll tell you where to go to get your CEU when the show is over. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Behavioral View. This is April. That means we are in season 4. We're in episode 4. We have crazy weather. Some days it's spring, some days it's summer, some days it's winter. Maybe not for Joanne, but for the rest of us. My name is Shannon Hill. I'm editor-in-chief at CentralReach Institute, and I am here with a group of friends today. Nissa, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nissa Van Etten. I'm the Director of Clinical Training and CR Institute here at CentralReach.
And we have been bringing in lots of different friends from the CentralReach BCBA groups. And today we have Joanne. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, so excited to be back on the screen. I'm Joanne Hill-Powell. I'm the Senior Director of Education Strategy at CentralReach.
And I'm super excited about today's guest. This is one of our all-star CentralReach Institute customer partners who just has so many amazing ideas, and we just felt like the world needs to know about them. So say hi, Chelsea.
Oh, Shannon, you're so kind. My name is Chelsea Sharoma, and I am the Director of Clinical Training and Development at Behavioral Innovations. We're a company that's based in the Dallas area, and I've been with the company for about 7 years and served for a couple of years as a BCBA and clinical director, and now serve as our Director of Clinical Training and Development. So anything clinical, I help to either directly, produce or create the materials, or I oversee people who do. And, my goal on a daily basis is just to help people learn, whether that be our clients or the staff at our centers. And I get to do that in a lot of different ways in my role. And so it's really fun for me.
And that is why we love Chelsea, because our job is also to help people learn, and we get to riff off each other and share those ideas a lot.
Yes.
So today, super exciting. We're going to talk about apprenticeships and how to help people who want to become BCBAs while they're working in your organization, because BI has a fabulous model. And we're going to get into that, but we're going to start with our question of the day, which is, hey guys, what you reading?
I can start.
Yeah,
I'm happy to start. So I've actually got 2 books that are going right now. The first one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it's one of those, like, I have to read and then take a little bit of a break so that I can process a lot of information as kind of a recovering perfectionist, and feeling like I have to do everything all at one time. And, so much of what he talks about is just focusing on the small things and, basically analyzing your own behavior. It's kind of funny whenever you read something that's explaining your role to you. And so that's been really good. But when I'm not reading that, I'm also finally, I know I'm like 20 years late to the party, but I'm reading through the Harry Potter series. I'm on the 5th book right now. So I'm on Order of the Phoenix and working to get through to the end of those. And so that's been a fun, just a lighthearted read for me.
So I have a question. Have you already seen all the movies?
I have not. No, I'm like so behind. And I honestly don't know how I've avoided spoilers for my whole life. But nothing has been spoiled so far. So my goal is to finish all the books and then to watch all the movies.
Okay, and then you can do the comparison. We'll bring you back on for your review.
Yes.
I haven't
I'm
seen
ready.
the movies either, Chelsea, so you're not too far behind.
Okay.
I'm over here mouthing wow.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
Like, what rock do you 2 live under?
Right.
Same
I
one, think.
know.
What else? What you got, Nissa? What are you reading?
I'm reading a book called The Origins of You. So it's really interesting. I think as I get into this teenage parenting kind of domain of my life, and it talks about the origins of your birth family and where you fit into that family and your role, and how a lot of the stuff that happens in your childhood impacts the decisions you make as an adult. So I'm reading it to understand myself as well as ways to not mess up my children. or at least attempt to not
Yeah.
mess them up.
We all do that anyway, no matter what. We just hope to balance it with some ways that we've given them some resilience and some good skills. But yeah.
Absolutely.
How about you, Joanne?
Okay, well, in all honesty, my mind immediately went to a children's book because when Nissa was just talking about her kiddos, last night we read The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and that one just never gets old. It's such a tearjerker for me. But I actually just picked up a book that I can't speak to yet because I haven't started it. And it's called, oh man, I have to double check it. It's a playbook for no regrets living, The Life Brief by Bonnie Wayne. So I can't speak to it yet because I haven't cracked it open. But when I flipped through, what I loved is Behavior Analysts and Us. There's all these open text prompts so that as you read the book, you're actively journaling and responding. And I tend to like books that also have that kind of engagement. So
You want homework with your reading, huh?
yeah, I need some open-ended opportunities, a permanent product when I'm done, all those things.
Well, I tend to flip flop between read something work related, nonfiction, then read something fluff. And then this year, I added a third category because people. I was originally an English major, and people think when you were an English major that you have read everything, and so I have started filling in the blanks of books I'm embarrassed I've never read. So right now I am on, well, I just recently finished The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. And I don't know if you guys have read that, but it is the most beautifully written book. It's in the like top 3 most gorgeous pieces of writing that I have ever read. So I was just like completely in awe. It's super short. There's no excuse for why I have not read this before. um so I'll leave it at that. I think I had mentioned before what I was reading work-wise in a previous episode. So I had, and it took me forever. And here I will leave it at this. This was an excellent book. I recommended it to everybody. I'm not going to say what it was because I'm going to say something mean now. Authors. Just because you wrote the book, that does not mean you are the best person to read it for Audible. Done. It took
Yeah,
so much
sure.
longer just because they were not natural readers. I was like, oh God, I can't do this anymore. All right. So let's get into the meat. And Chelsea, if you can just kind of start us off, curious about kind of what you guys are doing for the apprenticeship model and kind of why. Like, why did you decide to go this way?
Yeah, so we have it started off as our intern program. Those seeking certifications still within their masters, working as, on their field work, working through their coursework, but working alongside of one of our BCBAs at Behavioral Innovations. And it really started off with that program and then wanting to be able to add on more and additional responsibilities as they were getting closer to the role of being a BCBA and finishing up their programming, kind of having that, middle ground between, all right, I finished my master's. I still am not ready to test because of whatever reason, whether that be, it was typically because of hours, still needing to gain some either restricted or unrestricted hours. And so kind of wanting to have a place where we were able to add on some additional responsibilities, still under that protection of a BCBA, still having that mentorship opportunity and still being able to see that growth and that progress towards the ultimate role of being a BCBA. And so it just kind of was born out of a need and having an opportunity for our interns to move into a different type of role. Again, where there's still that protection, there's still that growing in independence, but it's still overseen by a BCBA, and they're still able to get that necessary support. I know whenever I first became a BCBA, there was a lot of stuff that I was learning on the job and, just, you know, figuring it out as I went. And I had some really great people along the way that I could go to and say, okay, hey, I need some help with this. Or, hey, once I came to be, I had some new supervisors that were able to provide additional support. And things that I had not had experience with. And so our goal is to give them as many experiences as possible, also recognizing that there's still going to be a lot of on the job learning, but we want to make sure that we're able to do that in a way that's still being supported by their supervisor. And so that was kind of the reason why we came up with kind of this apprenticeship model at BI.
think that's really, really cool. While you were talking, I was just curious, how does that differ from the way you guys were trained? Because I was grandfathered in, so I'm curious, like, what have we learned in behavior analysis over the course of the last 20 years, I guess, of certifying people and getting people ready to actually independently practice?
Yeah, so I know whenever I went through my experience, it was probably a little bit different. I was a public school teacher at the time, doing my master's, and at that point, it was a master's in education. And hindsight's kind of 2020. Knowing where I am now, I probably would have chosen a different type of program. I thought I was going to stay in public education. I thought I was going to do like special education, like admin or something like that. Or just be in the classroom for the rest of my life. And it wasn't until I started working within a clinical setting that I was like, hmm, this is this is different. I like this. I was teaching high school and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, the community education, vocational, all of those things. But I realized how important early intervention was really whenever I got to my high school students as it we could have been in a different spot with some of our students if they had received some type of early intervention, and that's where I kind of moved to. My clinical supervisor or my BCBA supervisor was the director of that, and she was incredible. But I only had one example of what a BCBA was. I did have some master's level students and some grad students that I would interact with occasionally, but they didn't offer any supervision, mentorship. It was more of, we're working on this research project together, or, we were just having conversations. But it really wasn't until I had that opportunity to learn from multiple BCBAs at my company that I was like, oh, okay, so there's different ways to do things, and I can approach this staff member one way and this staff member a different way based on their learning style. And again, as a teacher, that was just natural to me, but it was just different whenever it came to being a BCBA. And so I got to see a model of what different BCBAs did, and was then able to kind of figure out what does my path look like? What does my practice look like? And really just refine that over the years. And so I think that's where again, and maybe that was just my experience, but I had one really incredible supervisor. And then it wasn't until after I became a BCBA that I had more examples of what that looked like in practice.
What about you, Joanne and Nissa? Was that similar for you, or do you have different kinds of paths?
Yeah, there's definitely some pieces there that I can draw from for sure, Chelsea. I also studied teaching, and I knew going into the field that I wanted to practice in a school based setting. So the teaching component was really important to me. I had a really unique opportunity to be a part of a program that's based out of Teachers College in New York, the Comprehensive Application of Behavior Analysis to Schooling. It's a tongue twister,
Wow.
otherwise known as CABIS. But ideally, they partner with public schools and or private programs, and then place students that are in pursuit of a behavior analytic credential in a school-based setting. And so what was really unique to that, whereas I know many individuals have to combine what they're learning in a master's program with outside supervision and kind of piece those components together, is it was really a part of the design of our program that we would be rooted in our position, full-time employment, but then also be working our way towards teaching certifications and a behavior analytic credential. So echo a lot of those pieces of what you said. However, that piece that I really thought was valuable is having to piece together other parts of what it will look like to be a behavior analyst. It's a subculture,
Mhm.
right? To practicing in a school versus in a community or in an agency. And so, of course, like most of us on the screen, then I started to do some community-based work, home programming, and that's where I started to connect all the dots of this is what it looks like to practice in this environment versus in a more clinical environment versus a school. So yeah, unique experience, but definitely echo a lot of what you said, Chelsea, for sure.
I am so like keyed into that sentence you just said about the subcultures because for those of you who were watching or listening when Terrence Allen was on, he and I had a lot, we worked together and had a lot of reminiscing opportunities in that session. And I think he told the story of being in an IEP meeting with me, and he was an RBT at the time, and he took he's sitting there and he's looking at the assessment results, and he's like, um, "What what did you want me to do? This is a lot of needs." And I'm like, "Oh, you're from clinic work, aren't you? Welcome to schools. Let's go sit over here and talk for a minute."
And conversation for sure, right?
Yeah. It was fun. Nissa, what was yours like?
Gosh, I think we've learned so much in the last 2 decades. One, when I was kind of growing up and gaining my experience, there wasn't this organized apprentice type model. There wasn't this, here's the task list, here's what's beyond it, here's what you should learn. A lot of what I learned and the work that I was doing, BCBAs were, and the role that I worked in, BCBAs were working directly with clients and adjusting the program as they were working directly. So I did both clinic and school based. And in the schools, I wasn't an employee of the schools. I was a consultant. So I was going in helping with IEP design, skill acquisition targets, behavior plans. But in the clinic, a lot of my supervisors were the BCAs working directly with the clients and modifying the programming as they were working. So there wasn't a tiered model. It was really purely just observation. And the clinic that I worked in, the BCBAs would talk about what they were doing as they were doing it. So I'm probing this skill, and here's why I'm, analyzing this component, so that I had access to a number of clinicians with different practices. And I think the narration really helped me learn and identify, okay, this is why they're, administering this assessment. Here are the results in the moment, watching them have conversations with parents. I also did a lot of in-home, and I think that shaped that compassionate component, right? Back then, parents paid out of pocket for my services as kind of a tutor or a therapist working under the supervision of the behavior analyst or master's level individual that was running the curriculum or program in the home. So it's a really interesting role. I think the 3-tiered model came out, in my training experience, and then insurance came out at the same time. So there was a big shift, and organizations had to get behind, we need to have an organized structure for these individuals, helping them accrue their hours, signing off on those hours, documentation. And then scope of competence also was a big discussion point, saying, well, if we've trained them, what is the permanent product saying they've received that training? I think there's been a lot of shifts in the last few decades that really allow us to indicate someone's been trained well or might receive training and miss areas that need more training.
Yeah, and I know, Chelsea, you're doing a lot of work in that area, and I want to come to it, but two things first. Number one, it's time for secret word for our CEU seekers. So, secret word number one is recognize, RECOGNIZE, recognize. And launching straight into recognition, I know that there's so much talk about RBT turnover. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is people are there's two different types of turnover, right? For RBTs, or at least departing the position. It's positive reasons and negative reasons. And I know there's a lot of work from like Byron Wine, and I think Ellie Kazemi does some stuff here on that number is meaningless unless you're looking at those two things, right? Are they terminating because they are leaving the field, or it's a competence issue and we're terminating them, or are they growing into different positions? So I'm curious about how organizations spot talent or spot people who have that potential. Is it that do you let people just, or not let, that's a bad word, but are people just self-electing into these paths and the organizations are supporting them, or are you actively looking for people who have kind of an already really, they're getting it, they have that behavioral analytic style about them?
So I think we've approached it both ways. We definitely have people that, you know, they, well, I say they probably have come in and realized that they love this. And that's kind of one of the things that we see a lot happening is they've decided to go in and go into school, whether that be themselves. We now, offer different opportunities for different school partnerships and, to just help people with this, this whole process. So I will say that a lot of it in the past has been the individual's initiation. One of the things that we have talked about with our supervisors recently and with our BCBAs is just calling that out whenever we see it in people. We've all worked with those RBTs that were like, man, you have to be a BCBA. You have to keep moving on in this field, and making sure that we're giving them that recognition and that we're verbalizing those things. Because goodness, I remember whenever I was a young professional and I had some incredible people that just spoke into me and said, "You know what? This is what you should do, or this is what I see in you." And it's really important because sometimes we don't see that in ourselves. And so we really want our supervisors to do that and to identify those people that it just comes naturally for. Those RBTs that were like, "Man, I want to be in a session with you." That's the people that we definitely want to call that out whenever it's just a natural part of who they are. But we've also just encouraged our people of, they might not be there right now, but that doesn't mean that they won't get there. And so that's something too with that supervision process, is making sure that we're individualizing it to our staff as well, and that not everyone needs to keep moving on in our field. And I love that, in our company, we've got opportunities both in the clinical realm and then operationally where people can move. We've got a lot of people progressing to different roles that don't want to be a BCBA, and that's okay, but they recognize the importance of what we do and they want to continue to be a part of that, just not necessarily in a clinical capacity. And so that's something that recently we really have been encouraging of. If there's somebody that's not currently seeking certification that you think should, tell them that. Let them know that you see that in them. And if they're not there, if it's somebody that's not there, but you want to help them progress and grow, it might be clinical eventually, or it might not be, but there's some other opportunities here as well. And that can be something that we just as supervisors are always sharing with the people that are working with us of, "Hey, this is what I see in you," or "What are your plans for the future?" Just having those conversations. Sometimes they don't know what they want to do, and they're still trying to figure it out, especially with it being, a high school diploma is the requirement. So there's still a lot of growth professionally, personally, that our staff have to do. And so again, I think we've seen both happen, but we really encourage our supervisors to let people know whenever they think that they could keep moving forward, and helping them get there, whatever that looks like.
I love what you're saying. I remember, like, I was graduating college with my English degree and working as a vocational educator. And, the behaviorists, they loved me, and they did exactly what you're saying. They're like, "Really? You're gonna go to grad school for English? It seems like what you're doing. It seems like you got a talent for this." And they just started talking to me, and it obviously changed the whole course of my life. And, that's not even those weren't supervisors, those were just coworkers, basically. So it's not just RBTs, right? You're in schools, you see this in teachers, you see this in paraeducators. There are a lot of people out there who are ready to be recruited into our field. All right. So, what about that? Like, once you guys kind of started to think that this was a thing that you wanted to do to help your folks grow, what are the critical components to a program like this? And did you get it all in
Yeah.
the first draft, or did you end up adding things as you went along?
Oh, we are constantly adding things.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we did though. So it started off with, the intern program and allowing people to, you know, receive supervision, get those restricted and unrestricted hours while being at work. Both, with the direct and indirect types of services. And so it started off with that. And then I would say the next thing that we kind of added in was um, support for supervisors. That was a really big component of what we added in, recognizing that, you know, we've all had different experience. I mean, even on this call, we all had different experiences with supervision, and every BCBA that we've had has had different experiences with supervision. And so we wanted to provide a little bit of additional support for the supervisors. And then we added in more of that, formal apprentice framework as well. And again, kind of that different role that's moving on from just the internship and accruing hours. Most of our apprentices are finished with their masters and, preparing. They're kind of in that preparation for their test, but then also preparation just more for the BCBA role and what that looks like. And so I would say that we've had, different things that we've added in over the years that has helped this to be more successful. And I'll say for, our supervisors, we did some courses. So we've done courses for our apprentices. We've got different courses that we're going to start incorporating for our interns and apprentices. So kind of making sure that, whatever information that we want shared with everyone, that we are able to get that out to everyone very easily. And I will say that the Sellers, Valentino, and LeBlanc article from 2016, one of my go-tos, but that was kind of the framework of our supervisor series, and making sure that we're setting up, following all of the guidelines, making sure that we're setting up those effective supervisor relationships. A lot of what we talked about was, again, I've talked about learner individualization multiple times, but it's so important when it comes to the supervisees that we're overseeing, because every supervisee is going to need something different, and they're going to come to us, with different things from their course content, and maybe it's in a different order from one school to the next school. And so some interns already have exposure to a specific concept and others don't. And it's just really making sure that we're able to individualize that across their time with us. And so I will say, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be actually done, but we definitely are at a point where I think we've got the necessary components. It's just going to be the continual addition of content and making sure that, as new research comes out or as new things come out, that we're able to incorporate that into the program as well.
How do you keep up with that research? Is that one person's job? Is everybody pitching in that?
Oh, no, seems like a team effort on that one.
Yeah. It's definitely a team effort. And I love it whenever we get, messages from, I've gotten messages from interns before of like, hey, this article just came out. And I'm like, thank you. It's definitely not all on me, which I'm very thankful for, because that is a lot of pressure. So we've got so many BCBAs in leadership within our company. We've got BCBAs all over the company that are, very much on top of research as well. And so we get things sent to us constantly. And so we're able to add those things in, as they come to us. And then obviously, like, keeping up with, JABA and behavior analysis and practice, like those types of things. Keeping up with that type of information. We also bring in a lot of CEU speakers, and so that's something that I think is really helpful for us to have connections with those different speakers that are doing a lot of the research or doing things within the field, that we're able to get that information pretty much on a monthly basis, where we have those outside speakers coming to the company.
I was just going to mention, I really love the idea of providing that supervision training. I think I held a similar role years back. And one of the things we learned was as individuals were coming in the apprentice role, the intern role, RBTs who were in school, that there was just a lack of training on how to supervise, right? And we said that earlier on this call, that most of us kind of emulated the supervisors we appreciated. But there are some very key competencies supervisors should be aware of that even today there might not be enough training in, like how to give feedback, how to take feedback. Some of these skills that are really important when you pass that exam that you should be prepared to demonstrate and model for your RBTs. So I love that you are doing that. You've got kind of that structure in place.
Feedback is one of the components of one of the sessions. both for the apprentices and for the supervisees, we believe that 360 feedback is, I need feedback from you. I'm going to give you feedback because we're not going to get better. Neither of us are going to get better if we're not getting that feedback from each other. And so, yeah, that's definitely a big component. And just that focus on the rapport, continual rapport with people. It seems so foundational and just basic, but it's a really important part of any relationship. And so we talk about it, and it's important for it to at least be said and for us to be able to reflect on those areas where, how have I received or given feedback in a way that's good or bad? Or have I built rapport with somebody or lost that rapport? And how do I get it back? And those are things that we've all had to deal with across probably our lifetime. And just making it a part of that supervisor-supervisee relationship, I think, was a really important component. Again, seems very basic, but it's something that it's just an ongoing best practice that we should all be doing. So yeah, it was important for us to be able to talk about.
Absolutely.
Secret word time. So secret word number 2 is organize. 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 I'm getting good. I'm going to enter the National Spelling Bee pretty soon.
You are.
So one of the things that you were mentioning is that, everybody's coming to the table with different skill sets that they've already gotten through life versus skill sets that, they can read about and they learn easily. How are you guys? So you're tailoring an individual plan is what I took away from that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I have a quick outside perspective on that too.
Yeah.
Because I'm not as close to the work per se with Knowledge Builder, but something that I can really appreciate, and I know we're 30 minutes in, but just even the term apprentice is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You have so much hard and fast and clear criteria around supervisor, supervisee, mentor, mentee, but just hearing the term apprentice seems like it lends itself to you taking some very concrete tools like Knowledge Builder or a task list, but having this really personalized approach to it. So it feels like a few layers deeper, right? The rapport building, the way that you're thinking about how do we personalize this learning, the fact that you're even saying soft skills, right? It's really easy to get lost in all the competencies and all of the concrete skill sets you need to have to be effective in the field. But as you also described, these could be individuals that there's a glass ceiling on, and we want to make sure that we're helping to build them professionally, their character in the field and just affirming them. So, for what it's worth, I'm just still mulling over how powerful it is to call something an apprentice model and to take really concrete task lists and solutions that we have, but make it deeply personal so that you can really develop that individual and then in turn see some awesome outcomes.
Thank you.
So a nod to apprentice. I love it.
Yeah. It sounds like a commitment, doesn't it?
Yes, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
I'll get to you.
When it's an investment in your employees, right? As we were talking about retention and staff staying within an organization, it just sounds like there's a lot of investment in your team to stick around, to take the exam and stay here with us as a BCBA, that we've provided an individualized kind of path to your career and your own growth that isn't just a one size fits all, right? I think using the Institute and the reporting features and their mock exams as feedback to say, this is exactly where you need to improve, not the whole group or this whole cohort is taking it. It's you as a clinician.
Right.
Yeah. It's really nice. Something else though that you were saying that I've gotten to where with behavioral view now, I like to have a point where I put everybody on the spot and no one knew it was going to happen.
Oh, yay. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Can you think of a time when you had a supervisor or a mentor give you some feedback about something that you needed to grow on, that it actually resonated with you one way or the other? Can we talk about that for a minute? Because it is such a growing, it's a place that a lot of BCBAs don't kind of struggle in and dread, right? How am I going to tell this person that they need to work on this in a way that lifts them up and encourages them to grow versus makes them feel worse and makes them not like me as a person, things like that? I can go first while you think, just because it wasn't nice of me to do that. I remember going into a meeting, an interdisciplinary meeting, and it was actually the nutritionist. And behavioral issues, because they show up so many places, right? And the nutritionist had a large personality. She was, very dominating in any group. And she had ideas about how this behavior should be handled. And it was food related. So, and I remember that I listened and I tried to redirect, and I listened and I tried to redirect. And then finally I said, I went old school BCBA type response and got very, bent out of shape, actually, and matched her, because it wasn't pleasant the way she was expressing herself. And I came straight in exactly the same energy, and it turned into this tennis match that the rest of the team just sat, bing, 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 and watched.
Oh,
And of course, my supervisor was notified by the person running the meeting. And she was the most diplomatic human being in the world. And I came in and she called me in and she's like, "So what happened with so and so in that meeting?" I'm like, I thought I was about to get backed up, because she was definitely wrong. Everything that she was saying was wrong. And my supervisor just kind of sat there and listened to me. And she said, "And so you want to be just like her?"
oh,
Wow.
ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it would have been great if she had then said, "Let's play this through, me and you." She didn't go that far, and I probably would have learned the skill faster if she had done those things. But that stuck in my head forever, for the rest of my life. Whenever somebody is being a jerk and I want to be one too, I just hear that, and it's there. I at least try. All right, you've had enough time. Who's got me an example?
I have two examples. I'll make them short. One of them was really, I'd say, a poor example. I use this a lot in teaching at the university level, saying, as supervisors, even the small comments we make impact the RBT or the technician or I was a tutor back then, is what my title was. But my supervisor at the time, we were teaching a little girl to ride a bike, and I was, on my hands and knees, really helping her push the pedals because she didn't have the motor skills. And just the small comment of, I don't think you're going to make it in this field, was what she said. And then kept going on with how I should continue to push her feet and provide a prompt. That comment, and I was 17 years old at the time, right? In undergrad, didn't really know what I was going to do. It could have gone both ways. It could have been just a heartbreaking, emotional moment. It really inspired me to say, what, I can do this. And maybe I'm young and I have no idea what any of these terms are, but I'm going to learn them. Or it could have gone south and I could have left the field. So it really did manipulate my EOs to really go back to graduate school, make it through undergrad. So that one I use a lot for people in their graduate programs to understand that just even the smallest comment that you think you're just making under your breath can impact someone. That was really impactful in my career. And then another one was just very similar to your, Shannon, just in, a multidisciplinary team meeting, going in as I'm the expert. I'm guiding the discussion on the treatment plan. I'm going to really shape how we run this meeting, and not taking a step back and reading the room. Early on in my professional career, really, newly certified, got some feedback from a supervisor saying, "Hey, you didn't even glance at the parents to understand that they were dealing with something emotional when they walked in." And of course, my feedback was I was very nervous and I had an agenda and I wanted to stick to it. So I didn't even want to look up because I was so nervous. But that feedback led me to kind of shifting how I go in for parent training, parent meetings for IEP, saying, "Hey, let me take a minute. We don't have to always be so regimented that I should read the room and look at everyone and see how they're doing." It was really great feedback for how to organize and plan a meeting.
That's great.
Yeah. I have to say, Nissa, I think you should politely reintroduce yourself to that first supervisor. Politely, in the spirit of what, Shannon shared. So we're glad you stayed, because what a loss it would be, right? And persevere. I think mine is similar to the last example. It's not so much about like my direct behavior analytic practice, but it was more so a supervisor that I had towards the end of my program. And I think she was coming in for an observation, and I had actually like 50 million like bright ideas. I'm going to do this, and this is going on, and all these updates. And she just said, sit down for a minute. I think that she could tell that if I didn't learn to continuously reflect upon my time management and everything was well intentioned, and I really believe you could do all these things, but without like a prioritization plan, you could run the risk of just not getting them done as well as you'd like to. And so that conversation, which went on and had a lot of depth to it, probably like your apprentice conversations, Chelsea, but I think served me well, like going into a more mature career, and actually is like something that I operate in motherhood every day, right? Like you can do anything, you can do all these things. It was very empowering, but also behavior analysts often, because of our intent to serve, right? To produce outcomes, we can really drown ourselves in a caseload or something that's not sustainable or a plan that can't be maintained. So it was just really solid advice on the soft skills side. And she gave me a few strategies that I still use to this day. And fast forward, she actually consults for a public school that we now partner with in CentralReach as of this year, and ended up being in our office like 2 weeks ago. And it was a full circle moment of just how much that advice that she gave me, A, was true because I saw her walking in that in her own professional journey. But I was just like, there's probably no way I could do what I do every day without you helping to slow me down at that very early part of my career. So I'll have to send her a shout out email.
Yeah, you need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is very similar to that, actually. And it's actually my current boss right now who, she was, I think, the 32nd certified BCBA. She's one of the founders of our company, and she provided my training when I first came on at BI. And I'm very much a let's get in and get it all done, and I approached that with supervision. And the first time I ever did a supervision session with her, she was like, "Whoa, girl, slow down a little bit. Like, you don't even know the RBTs yet, and you're just coming in and giving them all this feedback." And I was like, well, but that's what we're supposed to be doing. Like, we're supposed to be making changes to client programming, staff training, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, slow down. And I was like, okay, cool. But she was the model for me of just getting to know the staff as people, and getting to know what their interests are, what their passions are. Because once I figured that out, I was able to see, oh man, these people are really great with this type of client. And that's how I was able to do that. She's still my boss now, and the same approach happens on a very regular basis, because again, I come to everything and I'm like, we need to do this and this and this and this and this. And she's like, all right, what's the priority? Let's figure that out. And sometimes I know now that I can go to her and I just say, I've got all these ideas. I've got all these things that need to be done. I don't know which one to go with first. And she's able to say, okay, let's look at this together. Let's figure this out. And she's also the person that modeled for me the process of asking questions to get to the actual issue, to get to whether the root cause, the function of the behavior, so
That's
that I'm not running around trying to solve a problem that's not actually the problem in the first place. And that was something for me that has been invaluable across this role, but then I guess just personal life, but being able to figure out what's the actual issue here, and what are we trying to solve for? Because I don't personally like wasting my time. And that's where and I'm kind of bringing it back to the exam report analysis. I didn't want my apprentices and our interns wasting time on things that they didn't need to focus on in their task list studying. I wanted them to have database decisions. And so for me, the process of asking questions, trying to get to what the actual issue is, allows me to come up with a better solution. And so all of those things are things that I've learned from her. And I mean, countless other things, but those were the two things early on. And now I know that she's a safe place that I can go to say, I don't even know where to go right now. Like, I don't know what to do. There's so much going on. And she's a safe place, a mentor for me that I can say, I need your help. And I recognize that my capacity I've hit my capacity, whether that be in my knowledge and my problem solving ability in that moment, but she's the safe place that I can go to get that. And it's been cool to see where I've now been able to become that for other people, not to toot my own horn, but just in a way that it was modeled so effectively for me that that's what I want to be for other people as well. And helping them break down the problems and helping them be able to see the big picture and come up with the best solution for an issue that we're, running into, whether it's just them or it's us together, but things like that. So I think that's been a more recent example, but it's been invaluable for my experience now.
I want to shine a big light on what you just said. Whether you are called a supervisor, a manager, a leader, if you're doing those things, you're a safe place, not a scary place, not a judgy place, a safe place. It makes such a difference, not only in how people work for you right here and right now, but in the whole culture that you are building and delivering into your organization. It just, that's my
It's huge.
heart. Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because Zimi talks about it as that psychological safety. And she did a CEU for us recently. And that just was so meaningful for me of like, how can we each be that for people around us? Again, professionally, personally, but how can we be that safe place for people?
Yeah.
Really impactful.
Wow. Okay. So we are coming close to the end of our allotted time. I know people have other things that you have to do today. So just to kind of riff off of that for our little end segment, I guess. I'll just go old school crotchety BCBA for a minute and say one of the things that I think is very different now that we're such a structured professional training program and such and just the tiered profession, I guess, is where I see the change that has happened. Us old people feel like we were trained first as analysts, then as technical. The analytic was the most important. How you're going to come in, how you're going to view the world, how you're going to view any problem. And then the technology of applying that came second. And it feels to me, and I think some others of my generation from conversations that I've had, that that's flip-flopped. And now we train the technological application of the science before we train that analytic part. And this came to my mind, Chelsea, because of what you were saying and teaching people to basically analyze your own behavior, analyze your own score reports, and look for what is this pattern. Are you finding that this approach is translating in that analytic skills side in any kind of way? And I didn't have this question on the front end, so I don't even know if you had a chance to think about it. But even if no, what kinds of outcomes are you getting from this approach?
So I would say that this has been something that we're trying to build. I don't think that it exists in its essence, whether that be from the school program, from their experience, but we really are trying to help people take that analytical approach. And again, that was one of the reasons why I came up with that exam report analysis. And I'm happy to send you a screenshot of kind of what it looks like across those attempts. But one of the things whenever we're looking at this is being able to reflect on our own skills or lack thereof, our strengths and deficits. In my opinion, deficits are not a bad thing. And I think anytime people, get confronted with that, it's, oh, well, this is a bad thing. That's an opportunity for you to learn that. And I think that that's where just kind of reframing the expectations there of we don't expect you to know all of the task lists coming to us. We don't expect you to be a perfect BCBA as an apprentice or as your first day as a BCBA. This is a continual learning process. And so we have things broken down into skill level, confidence levels, because I think confidence goes hand in hand with your knowledge. Sometimes you might have the skill of it, you might be independent in it, but your confidence doesn't match that because you just haven't had opportunities to do it, or you're not able to do it fluently. And so whether that be task list related or whether that be role related, all of those things build on each other. And so again, kind of using that data to show people this is just an area of opportunity. Maybe you're going to get it from an article or a content video, or maybe it's going to be something that you need modeled by your supervisor, and they're going to be aware of that. And so all of those things go together so that we can make sure that people are seeing those areas not as a bad thing. The deficit's not a bad thing, but it's just an area where we need to improve in that. And here's how we can help you improve it. And I think that's it would be one thing if we said, well, you're terrible at this, and left it at that. But if we said, hey, you're not where you need to be, but here's how we can get you there, that's where we really want to make sure that we're operating. This is how we're going to help you get there. Again, some of our people take that initiative themselves. Some of them need a little bit more guidance through that process. And so I think that's where kind of my role and what we're working with the supervisors on, where we're really working together to make sure that what people need, that we're able to get to them. And again, whether that's an observation opportunity or whether it's a specific area of content, a video or an article that they need to read, that we're able to identify what those things are and get them those opportunities where possible.
Just glad you don't say you're never going to make it in this field.
That part.
I'm not gonna lie, Miss. I almost cried. That's so sad. But again, so glad that you took it the other direction. But yeah, no, we if at all possible, we are pushing the people towards that success, and what that looks like for them is going to look different, and how much support is needed is going to look different per person. But yeah, no, we definitely don't want to say those things to people. We want to make sure that we're getting them to the point of that success in their.
Well, nicely enough, our last secret word is empathize. 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 Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us and bringing our listeners so much valuable insights into this topic area. I know that it's got to be greatly appreciated by the people who work in your organization.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with y'all and to talk about it. I'm so excited for where our field is going to go in the future, and just excited to be a part of it. It's an honor for me to be able to serve in this role within my organization, but then also just to be able to meet other behavior analysts within the country. I know we're kind of all over the place. And so just being able to make those connections and that network, because we never know what impact that's going to have, across all of our lifetimes. So thank you for this opportunity.
Great. So thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of the Behavioral View, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Behavioral View. To get your CEU, follow the link in the instructions below. You can then go to the attendance verification quiz, where you'll enter in the secret words and pay the CEU fee to generate your certificate. If you've already done the work, you may as well get the credit.